Today I got up and decided I wanted to clean out some closets and pull some things out of the kitchen that I haven't used for a while. And the interesting thing is it's so hard to part with things when you go through and you think, well, I'm going to get rid of some of the stuff I don't need. Then you start thinking, well, maybe I should hang on to that because sometime I might need it. But the reality is you haven't used it for 3 years, right? And it's just like that with a lot of stuff. It could be your house, it could be your game library. I remember I thought a while ago I should go and get another hard drive for one of my computers. And then I realized I really don't need another hard drive. I just need to only have the games installed that I actually play somewhat regularly. And when I did that, I realized that I have plenty of space on the hard drive I've got. I don't really need every single game in my Steam library to be installed. But we hang on to so much stuff, and there is a correlation between having less stuff and having more peace and more time. I think to myself, I don't know if I want to live where I'm living forever, right? Like I just live in a pretty simple apartment, so it's fine, but it's not anything that I necessarily want to live in forever. So at some point I'll move on. And I am single right now, and I don't plan to be single forever. So there's that. And I think about, what would it be like to be in a relationship and share my life with somebody else again? And one thing that's come to my mind is, there's things that I really want, stuff that I think is super cool, collectibles that I've gotten, my computer gaming stuff, all of the things I think are really cool that I've gone out of my way to get. Of course, I always want to have, the man cave, the space, it's my own. But then there's other stuff, all the things that are just kind of, random decoration, stuff that came from the Ross or TJ Maxx or something, the closet full of random things. And that's the stuff that I kind of have been trying to get rid of, because if I wanted to move, just think about how much easier it is to move if you've already eliminated all the extra things that you never use, all the clutter that winds up just going into the dumpster. I see people move in and out all the time. And one thing that I've always noticed is when people move out, they produce a lot of garbage. And you'll see a dumpster filling up with all the stuff from a tenant who is moving out. Because as they're moving out, they're going through their stuff and they're realizing, well, this particular thing I don't need to bring along with me to my new place, so it goes out to the dumpster. And there's only so much room in the dumpster. And that's just an extra burden to worry about when you're trying to move, you're trying to get set up, you're trying to go from one place to another, to also have to go through stuff and sort out what's going to go into the trash and what's going to go to the dump and all of that. If you don't have to do that, it's just nice. If you know that everything that you've got is something that either serves a specific purpose and you actually use it, or it's something that has a specific sentimental value and it tells a story, and you can say, here's why I really think this is a cool thing that I enjoy, that I value, that I want to have so that I can enjoy it or use it or look at it, or maybe it conjures a memory. And there's a few things like that you have, but a lot of things that you have are oftentimes just random things that you'd be just as well off not hanging on to. And that's hard to let go of those things. In any case, today I went to the Goodwill store and I took a carload full of random things that I found, stuff that I just don't really use, don't really need, and got rid of it. And it just feels nice, and then there's a few other things that I just took out to the garbage. Like I bought a new computer at the end of last year, December, I believe, is when I got it. And I've had the box sitting there in the closet ever since. And now it's August. You know, going on a year down the road, and it's amazing how fast a year goes by, but going on a year of time goes by and an empty cardboard box is still sitting there, because at the time I thought, well, you never know. I might need to have that box at some point. So it just sits there. And now I don't need it, but it's still there. So kind of just trying to simplify my life. I think there are times when you don't necessarily know what to do to move forward, but you can do things to make your life more sustainable, to make it more simple. I was thinking about how when you look at the design of airplanes, one of the biggest things that is a focus is eliminating drag and eliminating weight. If you want an airplane that's going to be a really good aircraft, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to come up with a design that uses lighter materials and uses less material and is more streamlined. Not necessarily more powerful. It's not about how much thrust the engines have per se. That could be relevant, but it's the shape of the airplane, it's how heavy it is, it's how light the materials are. That's probably the biggest things that will determine the efficiency and usefulness of a new model of aircraft. And a lot of times we focus on, you know, how can we be more powerful? How can we be able to maybe reach out and acquire something new in our life, a new job, a new relationship, a new chapter in our life? We're always thinking, well, how can I get there? And that's not unimportant, but a big part of life is not really being able to make the progress into the next chapter that you want, as much as always being ready for progress in the future by eliminating drag in your life. So I've been trying to work on that. Then I started having some car trouble, and I have a cheap car. Like, I paid $1,000 for my car, and it's worked just fine. And I put zero effort into working on the car for a couple of years, because I work within walking distance of where I live. So all I have to do is just walk a couple of blocks to work, and I'm there. I can walk to grocery stores. I can walk to restaurants. You know, if for any reason I wasn't able to drive my car, I could easily go walk over to the enterprise car rental place and get a rental if I wanted to go somewhere and didn't want to put mileage on my own vehicle. And if I'm traveling for work, I'll carpool with one of my peers who does have a company car. So, like, none of us have to worry about putting miles on our cars for work-related travel. So it's just pretty nice, because I don't have to worry about it. Like, if my car doesn't work right, I can not drive it. I can let it sit indefinitely, or I can take it down to a mechanic and just have them work on it for however long it takes for them to fix it up. In any case, I've been doing some basic stuff. Got the oil change done, got the air filter replaced, and put new tires on it last week. But today, when I was driving all of my junk to the Goodwill store, for whatever reason, if you take your foot off the gas, it wants to die instead of idling. So there's something wrong that makes it die when it should be idling, and I don't know why. But works out to be perfect timing, because I'll be taking a vacation next week, and I already kind of had planned. I didn't really want to go anywhere far. I just want to stay close to home and do some of those things that I always talk about doing and never get around to, like finishing some quests and various RPGs and playing my games and working on my writing projects, because I've always thought I want to write a book at some point. So working on some of those things, and really just kind of doing things like I was talking about, cleaning up and organizing my home and getting rid of things I don't need, and just kind of working on all that stuff so I can go out of the week feeling like my life's just a little bit more in order than it was at the beginning. So taking my car to the mechanic will be something I'll probably do on Tuesday next week, because I'll work on Monday and then I'll take the rest of the week off. I always like to, when I take vacation, I like to work on Mondays because that's the busiest office day for the business. So then I'm there at least one day out of the week, and then I'll take the rest of the week off. So that's kind of what I'm going to do next week. In any case, the car trouble kind of ties in well with what I'm talking about, because it just illustrates how there was a time when I had a long commute and I lived in a big city and my car was more expensive and it had a payment. So if I had car trouble back then, that was a major problem, because I would have to probably get a rental car for the time it was in the shop and then drive that while it was being worked on, because I couldn't walk to work. So especially since at the time I tended to have revolving credit card debt and I didn't manage my money very well, that'd be a major concern, because that's a lot of money to get a rental car and then take your car to the mechanic, and you don't know how much that's going to cost. And having car trouble when you commute for 2 hours out of your day and have no loose money to deal with emergencies, that can be a really serious issue. And a lot of people are living that way, just one car problem away from maybe losing a job or having a situation that they just don't really have any good way to navigate. But in my case now, I don't have to worry about that, and that's been the result of a lot of streamlining and simplifying my life that's already happened. But I just thought, it's kind of interesting, because here I am, and I was a little bit concerned, because I'm driving my car into the Goodwill donation line to drop off my stuff, and it wants to die. I'm like, well, gee, I hope it doesn't die here in the Goodwill donation drive-through line, and then I have to push it out of there because it's in the way of all the other people trying to go drop off stuff at the Goodwill. That would be awkward. But at the end of the day, it wasn't that big of a deal, and I knew it wasn't that big of a deal. And that's a nice feeling, to just not really be worried about it. It's not going to affect my life in any way, and it's just not a huge deal to not have to worry about something like that. So, how do you simplify your life? Get rid of things that add worry, get rid of things that add a sense of concern. And maybe you do have a life that's simpler in many ways, to the point where other people will have things you don't have. Other people are going to kind of have that flex, right? Like they're going to be looking better in many ways. But if you have financial freedom, and you have freedom to enjoy your time however you wish, then does it really matter? And I would say not. It doesn't matter too much how you are doing, what you're doing rather. If you have peace in your life, other people maybe don't. And they'll say, well, you should drive a new car, you should try to elevate your career more, you should go into debt more, you should be chasing whatever the new thing is. more aggressively. But the truth is, quite often, if you just have fewer liabilities and you have fewer things to worry about and manage, it frees up a lot of space. And then when you don't have too many things to try to manage, then the things which remain feel more meaningful, and you have the time to engage with them. And if something's wrong, then you fix it, because it's one problem that you have to deal with. It's not every single problem in the book hitting you all at once. You know, it's like aggroing a whole bunch of mobs in a game. You could defeat one monster all by yourself, no problem. But then if you get a whole bunch of them all together and they're all hitting you all at once, even if they're not very powerful, you might wind up getting killed because you just can't fight 10 mobs all at the same time. And that's how it is in life. Like if you're having a high-powered career and you've got problems that you have to deal with at work, and you're worried about that, and you're giving extra time to your career, and your 40-hour work week is turning into 70 hours, then you go home and you have a property to deal with, and you have car problems, and you have a family to manage, and all these other things that are adding extra burden and weight to your life, then you just become very tired and overextended. And then you start to think, well, you know, I think I'd like to go play that game that seems pretty cool or something. And it's never going to happen because you just don't have time. There's a girl who I know, and she's one of our managers, and I was talking to her last week, and we were talking about games, and she was talking about how, you know, she used to actually play Elder Scrolls Online and some of the other MMOs, but then now that she's a manager, she doesn't have time. And I totally relate to that, because I've been a manager in that exact role before, and I'm not right now. But I was thinking about that, and you know, when you start off and you're trying to progress your career, you're trying to grind and you're trying to get ahead, and you have a chance to maybe get a promotion, or you go from an hourly role to a salaried one, and you get paid somewhat better money than you did before, you're in that career progression mindset, and it just feels like, you know what, if I can get a little bit further ahead by giving just a little bit more of my time, that's okay. If I can be successful in my career, it's okay if I work that extra day. Maybe I'm working 6 days a week or whatever it might be. You just deal with it, you move forward. You're tired a lot, you're not really doing your personal hobbies the way you wish, and all of the above, and it just doesn't feel like it's that big of a sacrifice. But then as time goes on, when you get further on in life and further on in your career, and then you start to realize, well, wait a minute, I've given a lot of my time, I've given a lot of my life, and all the things that I ever thought were cool or interesting, hobbies, I just don't have any time to do any of those things. And you start to think, well, when am I going to have time? When, or is it just that I have to give up that part of myself and not have a sense of wonder or curiosity about life because I'm too busy just grinding? Like, do you want to wait until you're 65 years old before you can maybe think about having a hobby or something? And a lot of people are in that mindset. You're going to be grinding your life away, and then you're going to get to the point where you spent so much time in your life grinding, you don't have energy anymore when you get to the end to do some of the things that you could have done before. And it's been so long since you've really been out of the loop and had, you know, you just haven't been connected for so long. And then that part of yourself that you used to enjoy, it's gone. Like, that part of yourself is gone, and you just aren't ever going to get it back, because the culture is gone, your memories are gone, and it's just so quick that it'll go from And you're like, well, one of these days when I have time, I'll get around to it. Turns into my whole life went by and I don't even care about it anymore. Like, I remember when I cared about it 3 decades ago, and now I'm just old and tired, and I don't care about any of my old childish things that I used to get a sense of joy out of. And that's a sad place to be, to allow your life to be that way, especially when you consider that there's a lot of things we can do that are meaningful in life, but they're not really things that should be our whole and entire life. You really shouldn't be spending your whole life devoting yourself to a career at the expense of having personal interests or something like that. And that's something I've realized a lot in the last few years as my life has changed, and I kind of got away from the mindset of grinding all the time and living paycheck to paycheck and all that stuff, and got more into just enjoying every day. And that's not about being rich, it's about having financial freedom, and understanding that a big part of having financial freedom is not about finding a way to make more money. It's about finding ways to have less obligations in your life. And the more I've gotten out of things, let go of things, got rid of stuff like car payments, stopped doing things like buying stuff on credit cards, all that kind of thing has helped a lot. And then now just enjoy life for what it is. Doesn't make life perfect, doesn't make it always sunshine and rainbows, but at the end of the day, it's definitely better to live your life with a sense of freedom than it is to live your life constantly constrained by a lot of obligations, feeling like you are so spread thin that you just don't really have time for yourself. Life should be enjoyed today. If you're waiting for a future point in your life when you can enjoy it, well, that time probably doesn't come. Anyway, talked enough about that, but I do think there's a lot to be said for, if you're not sure how to move forward, a good place to begin is by going through your cupboards and get rid of some stuff, go through your Steam library, maybe uninstall some of those games you haven't touched for a while. Look at your plate and see how much stuff do you have on your agenda that just doesn't really add value to your life. I even think about people who focus on stuff like politics a lot, or they focus on economic stuff like how do you get rich, or how do you get going on some sort of a scheme that's going to help you become financially successful. Even those kinds of things can wind up being a lot of noise that just distracts you from being able to do things that you truly enjoy, to do things that are actually worth sharing, to do things that are actually worth doing because they enrich your life. For example, I always talk about my boss because he's an old friend and he's just kind of great. I guess he's great content material, interestingly. But he'll spend a lot of time watching political videos, what's going on in the election, or watching videos about what's cryptocurrency doing, or what's the stock market doing, or how do you get to be rich, or something like that. Like, he likes to watch those kinds of videos, and I like to watch those videos as well. I think that they're interesting. But then I also think about how we live our lives just constantly in solve the problem mode. Like, we're always finding something to watch that's infuriating or contentious, or in some way implying that if these problems just didn't exist, then the world would be better, and we just need to figure out how do we deal with the problem. And having problems becomes our main source of entertainment. It becomes how we fill our day, how we spend our time. And then I think about somebody like this guy I'm telling you about, and how, he's so busy solving problems, and he's so busy ingesting content that's about problems in the world or about pushing yourself to reach some sort of a benchmark that you haven't reached. He doesn't really have any hobbies that don't revolve around fixing some sort of a problem or pushing to reach some sort of a financial benchmark. And it just begs the question, at what point do you have a problem if the only thing you know how to fill your time and your life with is trying to solve problems? Like, there's nothing that you do or want to do if you aren't trying to reach some sort of an end game. It's like a player that's grinding because they want to reach level 65 in New World or whatever it might be. You know, you're trying to reach max level with your character in a game where there is a max level. Then what do you do when you reach the end game? What do you do when you reach max level? Like, if we said, okay, set a goal, here's the benchmark that you have to reach in order to be successful in life. Like, what is it that you would do after you got there? If your life is good, you don't have to worry about money at all in your life anymore. You don't have to worry about any problems in the world because there's no problems in the world. And you don't have to worry about proving yourself in your career or anything because you just have unlocked unlimited money mode and you don't have any problems, right? So no problems, no money worries, nothing. Like, all you have now is to focus on the things that you enjoy most in life. Then what are those things? Or do you have any? And a lot of people just don't have any. Their life is all about proving that they're competitive with other people or proving that they're doing their part to make progress or to fix problems or taking a side related to some sort of a perceived problem in the world. But if you take the problems away, they don't really know how to live. There's not really anything that just makes them think, oh, I like my life. It's great. It's amazing. Let me just enjoy my life today. It's not. It's basically, if there's not a number going up associated with it, then there's no reason to play the game. And for a lot of those players, if we go back to the gaming analogy, they do get to the end game, maybe, right? Like, you get to the point where you can do whatever you want, but then it still feels empty. It's you hit the wall and you start going into midlife crisis territory because you're just thinking, well, shoot, like, what now? You know, like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't even matter what I do because there's nothing worth fighting for. There's no achievement that I could get that would really make life feel meaningful again. And that's not a fun place to be. But if you circumvent that, you live your life simply, and you get the things that you truly need to have a functional, comfortable life, and you spend your time doing things that you think are inspiring, then you're going to have a better time, and you're not going to hit the wall so much because you're going to enjoy every day along the way. And then when you get to the end, it's not really a big deal because you understand that your purpose in life is just to, it's not to command nature, it's to be nature. And we think that we're separate from nature, like we're not part of the world, we are the masters of the world. And then we look out there and we observe all the things happening in the world, but we forget that we are part of all of that and we're not separate from it. So we don't really have anything to prove. We should just live our lives and try to make them fair and balanced and peaceful. And you just don't need that much to do that. The truth is, life is pretty simple. You need a roof over your head to keep you warm or cool. You need food to eat, and truthfully, you don't even need that much food to eat. We think that we maybe need to spend more money at the grocery store than we really need. Sometimes it's not a terrible idea to maybe fast, kind of like how the religious people will do in some cultures, to say, you know what, today I'm going to just let my body rest. I'm not going to be constantly consuming, constantly eating, constantly going for another snack and going through the drive-through. I'm going to allow myself to just be a little bit hungry for a little while so that I can, maybe invest in, more moderation. And then when you do sit down and eat, it's more of a mindful, meaningful experience, because you're not constantly consuming something all the time. Like when I worked in the field in stores as a manager for Walmart, I would wind up eating a lot of junk food all the time. Like you just go, every time you feel like, oh, I want to take a break, then you go down there and you find some energy drinks, you find some snacks, some candy, some chips, I don't know, something. You just get it and you eat it, and it's just like you never sit down and just have a good meal. You're just always going for the snacks. You're always eating something, but it's not that sense of quality. And sometimes I think if we just have less, it'll be better. Like you don't have to necessarily like work out as much if you're just maybe eating better. Like sometimes that's a simple thing. Just have a healthy diet that's not excessive, and then you wind up being a little bit more healthy, and you don't have to work as hard for it. It just comes naturally. Life is filled with examples of this, where if we just cut out the things in our lives that we do not need, we wind up not having to worry about as many problems because we just preempt them. And then when there is a problem to deal with, when something does have to be addressed, we have the time, we have the space, we have the resources to deal with it proportionately and correctly. And life just winds up working out a bit better. So less is more. And if you aren't sure how to move forward, then maybe take a couple steps back and see if that added perspective helps you a little bit along the way. As always, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks for watching.